Welcome to NAUI's Dive Team Report. I'm your host, Greg Martin. There are a lot of similarities to diving into the vast unknown of the oceans and floating through the harsh unknown expanses of space. Both are very hostile environments for we mere mortals. I've often felt like I was exploring some strange new world as I was diving into a new area. Well, Roddenberry has made that analogy many times, first as the son of Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry, and then as the leader of Roddenberry Adventures. Rod, you're someone who really loves diving.
As much as probably a lot of the people at the show are, yes, I do love diving. Of course, I know people who love it more, who do it multiple times a week. I do it maybe once or twice a month. So that, unless I go on a beautiful liveaboard somewhere, in which case I do it 5 times a day, but that doesn't happen all the time.
Rod and I have actually known each other for quite a number of years, but I don't think I've ever really asked you what brought you into diving.
When I was 16, and I got my driver's license, that was my first taste of real, quote-unquote freedom as a rebellious teenager wanting to get away from his parents and that sort of thing. So the next thing I did after I got my license was I signed up for a scuba diving class because I felt like that was the most adult, risky, thing that I could do, where it was my decision and I could do it on my own, and it was a big boy decision at that time. It sounds crazy to say this, but literally that's kind of what it was. So I signed up for it, and I took the course, and I remember I passed the test. I was so proud of myself because I was horrible in high school in terms of a student. I passed the test with a 94, and then you have to do your checkout dives. And I couldn't go to my checkout dives because my mother made me do SAT prep courses that weekend. And I was so mad at her. And I guess maybe at the time I knew I could have rescheduled them. I just never did. So then then I went to college and I got my certification. I finally took the course in college all the way through and completed it and got my certification in 93.
As I mentioned earlier, Rod heads up an exciting program called Roddenberry Adventures. How did all that come about?
Well, thanks to you, back in 2009, I think, right? 2009. For a long time, the worlds of scuba diving and Star Trek seem to go hand in hand. I'm saying this to you, which is funny. Exploring strange new worlds, seeking out alien life. Well, that is scuba diving. Floating weightless in space. Well, that is scuba diving. I wasn't a Trekkie necessarily. First, I was more of a diver first, and I love that concept, and it just seemed to go perfectly with Star Trek and space exploration. So I always wanted to bring those two worlds together. I'd sat on it for a long time doing nothing, and then, of course, I don't know how we first connected on it, but when you got wind of it, I think you approached me and you said, I'm telling your story now, hey, let's do this. And I said, great, let's do this. Here, you do all the work, and which you did, and I appreciate that. So it was the Roddenberry dive team at the time. And then just a year ago now, maybe a year and a half ago now, we rebranded it to Roddenberry Adventures for 2 reasons. One, because half of what we were doing was above water anyways. Mm-hmm. And the other half is, just being honest, people out there, non-divers, are intimidated by the concept of diving. No matter how you explain it to them and how easy and safe you say it is, whether it's the cost, whether it's the effort, whether it's the fear, many of them are intimidated by diving. So we didn't, we didn't get that many people. We had a good group, but not that many. Changing the name has been fantastic. We do the exact same thing. We do half diving, half above water, and certainly don't want to say people flock to it, but there are more people who have joined and are excited and participate. So it's great. The rebranding kind of worked.
Calling it the Roddenberry Dive Team may have been a bit short-sighted for us, yes?
No, we were following our passion. I was 100% on board. I didn't know this back then. I thought, hey, diving, let's get everyone into diving. Diving is true exploration. All these Star Trek fans love the concept of Star Trek, exploring strange new worlds. Well, man, they're going to love diving because that's the real thing. That's the real deal. And I truthfully think a lot of them would. But diving is expensive. Diving does take work. There is a commitment factor, and you really have to want to dive. And it didn't go as gangbusters as I initially had hoped.
Yeah, I personally think the rebranding to Roddenberry Adventures works well, and it's still really about getting off the couch, getting a bit more active, and having, well, an adventure.
Yeah, I mean, we opened it up, and sort of what you're describing is exactly it. You can easily say any experience in life is an educational experience. Stepping outside your front door and doing something different. It's really just doing something different. That's how you grow as a person. So it can be as extreme as jumping out of a plane, or talking to that girl or guy that you've been shy to talk to, or taking a new path, driving to work. Every bit of that is an adventure or a way to learn and grow as a person. So, I mean, it's a very broad thing we do now. So we can go to dinner to celebrate my father's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on February 24th.
Adventure.
And that, maybe not the most extreme adventure, but maybe they haven't been to that restaurant. We can also go to Fiji, which we did last year, and dive with bull sharks. That's also one hell of an adventure. So the great thing is I don't want to be so loose about it, but we can call almost anything an adventure, as long as you're doing something that you haven't done before.
Roddenberry Adventures has been affiliated with NAUI since its beginning and also has a partnership with NAUI's Green Diver Initiative. Is that an association that's important to you?
Absolutely. NAUI was who I first got certified through. And then maybe I shouldn't say this publicly since this is a NAUI podcast, but when I did my dive master, I walked into a dive shop in LA and was talked into doing my dive master, and he was Patty, and so I did Patty. And then I transferred to NAUI a few years back. But NAUI's been amazing. I always loved their training method a lot more. When I took it, it was a little bit more rigorous. And I'm not trying to be a tough guy about it. I just felt much more confident. I felt some of my NAUI training was even better than my Patty Dive Master training at the time. And that's just a personal opinion. I'm not saying NAUI's better, even though I think they're better. That's relative. That's not objective. Anyhow. They were so supportive when I first came to them. When Greg, when you and I first came to them and said, we're doing this, they didn't even question us. They jumped right on board and said, how can we help? How can we support? How can we work together? And it's been a great marriage ever since.
I guess all I can say is keep exploring those strange new worlds.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you.
If you'd like more information on Roddenberry Adventures, check it out at roddenberryadventures.com. And that's this episode of NAUI's Dive Team Report. I'm Greg Martin. Thanks for listening. I'll see you underwater.